In 2025, America quietly crossed a new line. A viral video didn't just change a news cycle, it changed how the federal government funds childcare. A 23-year-old Magaalind creator with a camera and a narrative about Somali fraud in Minnesota posted a clip that blew past 100 million views across X, YouTube, and Instagram. Within days, Donald Trump's administration froze federal child care payments, ordered new nationwide documentation rules, and sent federal agents door-to-door survey, not because auditors had finished an investigation, but because the video fit a story the White House wanted to tell. That is the core of what's happening here. One piece of viral content has become the upstream input for national policy, and ordinary families are the ones paying the price. The creator at the center is Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old YouTuber who brands himself as an independent journalist with a hard-right following. Right after Christmas, he posted a long video titled something like, "I investigated Minnesota's billion-dollar fraud scandal," walking around Minneapolis and the suburbs filming daycare and autism centers he claims are empty, while collecting millions in subsidies. The angle is cinematic: locked doors, quiet parking lots, signs with misspellings like Quality Learning Center, and on-camera speculation that these centers are just shells to siphon money out of childcare programs that serve low-income families. In some clips, he pretends to be a parent trying to enroll a child, then turns to the camera and suggests the lack of activity proves the place is fake. He leans heavily on the fact that many centers are Somali-run and located in immigrant neighborhoods, framing it as part of a larger Minnesota fraud story. The video took off instantly in MAGA and anti-immigrant circles. X's internal metrics and news reports say it racked up well over 100 million views across platforms once you add uploads, clips, duets, and reaction videos. Conservative influences amplified it. Local right-wing radio shows looped it, and a sitting member of Congress shared it as proof that Democratic-run Minnesota was stealing from American taxpayers. Coverage out of Minnesota shows DHS investigators and FBI agents on the ground referencing the video in conversations with daycare operators. At the same time, community outlets have documented Somali-run centers reporting harassment, vandalism, and doxing after being named or implicitly targeted in the clip. The social media incentive structure did exactly what it's designed to do: reward dramatic visuals and simple villains with reach and attention, long before anyone had time to check whether the allegations were accurate. Then the White House stepped in and turned a viral clip into federal policy. On December 30, HHS officials told national outlets that the department was freezing all federal child care payments to Minnesota, citing serious allegations of fraud raised in the Shirley video. We're not talking about a niche program. We're talking about federal dollars that support tens of thousands of low-income families through the Child Care and Development Fund and related streams, worth around $185 million a year for the state. Deputy HHS Secretary Jim O'Neill posted that funds would stay frozen until Minnesota's Democratic governor completed a comprehensive audit of the daycare and autism centers featured in the viral clip. At the same time, HHS announced it was tightening requirements for every state, demanding more detailed administrative data, and for some payments, justification and a receipt or photo evidence before releasing money. DHS and FBI joined the show. Homeland Security investigators began what one local outlet described as door-to-door checks at multiple Minnesota centers, echoing the viral video by popping in to see whether kids were present and paperwork was in order. FBI Director Kash Patel referenced staggering levels of fraud in Minnesota at a press conference just days before the freeze, tying it to prior scandals around COVID food night abuse and suggesting childcare might be another front. Trump himself reportedly raised Somali communities and massive fraud in Minnesota in a cabinet meeting, using the video as shorthand proof. At this point, the chain is clear. One creator publishes a video, partisan media amplify it, the president cites it, federal agencies freeze funds, launch raids, and introduce new national rules, all in a span of days. But when you look at the details, the story is far less clear than the viral narrative. Minnesota's governor and relevant state agencies aren't saying there is zero fraud. They've been upfront that the state has had multiple serious fraud cases in unrelated programs, including a huge scandal over fake nonprofit, COVID food sites that bilked hundreds of millions from the federal government. They say they have already increased oversight of benefit programs and are reviewing centers named in the video. What they dispute is the idea that Shirley's footage proves an active billion-dollar daycare scam. In at least one case, CBS obtained security footage from a center Shirley filmed the same day he claimed it was always empty, showing parents dropping off kids throughout the morning and staff working inside. Local television has also reported that past surprise inspections at some of the highlighted centers did not find evidence that no children were being served. Even CNN's early review points out basic methodological problems with the video. Shirley doesn't show timestamps, often doesn't specify which day or hour he visited, and sometimes films locations outside normal drop-off and pick-me-up windows. In at least one segment, he appears to trespass, prompting a call to police and being escorted off a property. Foot in A. Context: his edit glosses over. None of that proves there is no fraud anywhere in the system. What it does show is that a highly edited narrative, designed for maximum outrage, has been treated as if it were a completed forensic audit. The administration's freeze doesn't target only the specific centers under suspicion. It hits every child care provider in the state that relies on federal dollars, whether or not they've ever appeared in an investigation. The bigger move happened in the fine print of HHS's announcement. This isn't just about Minnesota anymore. An HHS official told ABC News the agency has frozen all child care payments to all states pending new proof-use requirements, with funds to be released only when states prove they are being spent legitimately. Deputy Secretary O'Neill followed up saying the Administration for Children and Families will require detailed justifications and receipts or photos for payments going forward. In practice, that means every state child care agency now has to treat viral allegations in one state as the trigger for a national paperwork surge. Payments may be delayed, overridden, or second-guessed based on standards that were invented on the fly in response to one video. For normal families, that translates into real risk. Daycares that serve low-income kids live on thin margins, and frozen or slowed reimbursements can mean layoffs, closures, or sudden calls to parents asking them to make up gaps they can't afford. From the White House's perspective, there's another layer. This is a reward system for loyal storytellers. Nick Shirley wasn't just some random guy. He had already been to the Oval Office months earlier and posted about meeting Trump, positioning himself as a friendly influencer inside the MAGA media ecosystem. His daycare video came with explicit calls to action, tagging Trump and demanding federal intervention. When HHS, DHS, and the FBI respond at scale, they send a clear signal to creators like him: if you produce content that fits the administration's narrative, fundy. In this case, Democratic states plus immigrants equals fraud, your video can get turned into raids, freezes, and national rules. That encourages more creators to chase the same formula, find a sensational angle, leave out nuance, target a group already in the crosshairs, and hope the White House picks it up. Seen through the lens of Trump's broader politics, this fits a familiar pattern. Whether it's Liberation Day tariffs, a drug boat, war, or now a childcare fraud emergency, the method is consistent: declare a crisis, act through executive power, then retrofit a story around it, using friendly media. What's new here is that the story isn't coming from official briefings or think tank reports. It's coming from a YouTube algorithm. Governance by viral content means that instead of a long pipeline FUID investigation, data, hearings, policy, you get a short-circuit, outrage, share, executive order. For complex systems like childcare funding, that's like bypassing the circuit breakers in a power grid, because a trending post said one neighborhood was stealing electricity. The danger isn't just that this particular video might turn out to be exaggerated or wrong in key details. The danger is that millions of families now live in a world where their access to essential services can be cut off because someone with a camera, an audience, and a partisan incentive found a way to frame them as villains. Somali childcare providers in Minneapolis are already telling reporters they're getting threats, vandalism, and harassment based on half-understood clips. Parents using subsidies in good faith are being told their daycare's funding is on hold Because Washington wants proof. They're not part of a fraud ring they've never heard of. And future creators are learning a lesson. If you pick the right target, from YouTube to DHS raid is not a metaphor. It's a career path. If you want more breakdowns of how viral content is starting to steer real-world policy, from tariffs to childcare to housing emergencies, hit subscribe. Share your own experience if you're in a state affected by this freeze. And ask yourself one question. In a country this big, who should decide when we shut off the money for childcare, funny auditors and data? Or the last video to hit 100 million views.